So it seems sometimes no matter how much time you prepare to get on a plane, go away somewhere, like I was today, coming from Boston here to you, in New York City, the flight's always delayed.
It's out of your control.
It really
Always
is.
the
Even when I tell them
unexpected.
I'm coming to you.
Which has no pull, by the way. Anyway, there's always that unexpected delay. Sometimes, due to a mechanical issue or that plane arriving late, to the airport. But there actually could be one reason why your plane never seems to arrive on time. Transportation correspondent Kris Van Cleave joins us from Washington with a preview to tonight's piece that he's working on. And Kris, I know you dig through all that data. What are some of the trends you found?
Well, what we found was don't fly with Vlad because you're going to be late.
Very true, very true.
Fly at your own risk with Vlad.
Yeah, it's like little vodka bottles, take my shoes off.
Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't be that guy. Come on, Vlad.
No.
So we went through all of the flight routes that do more than 2 flights a day. And we looked at the percentage where they did not arrive on time. Basically, the worst flights in the country. And there are some trends, the worst flight routes, I should say, and there are some trends that become pretty clear. When you travel and you pick a hub airport, you're flying New York or Chicago, Los Angeles, those big airports that the airlines base their operations out of, there are certain hubs that are more delay prone than others. Specifically, Chicago O'Hare had 16 of the worst performers. They either departed from there or arrived there. So if you're flying out of Chicago or if you're connecting through Chicago, you increase the likelihood of a delay. And there's a number of reasons why O'Hare has had delay issues, but essentially volume and weather work against that airport a lot. The New York area airports see volume delays. They essentially get congested and get backed up, particularly as the day goes on. So one is, where are you flying out of and through? The next one, what kind of airplane are you on? No surprise here, but 17 of the top 20 flights we looked at were operated exclusively by regional carriers, and one other one was operated mostly by regional carriers. And when I say regional carriers, I mean those little microjets that they squeeze 50 people into and like things don't fit in the overhead bins. Those little airplanes. Those flights tend to be more likely to be delayed, and there's a simple sort of math here at some of that. Those flights, they operate multiple legs a day because they're going short distances, so they might do 10 flights a day, whereas a 737 flying from D.C. to L.A. maybe only does 2 a day. So you have a chance of those delays building. Also, because there's only 50 people on board, you're not inconveniencing that many people compared to, say, a 777 that has 200 to 300 on board if you delay or cancel the regional jet flight. So if you have to pick, it's much cheaper and much less disruptive to delay the smaller plane. That makes sense. The third one, and you've probably noticed this particularly in the New York area over the last couple of months, the afternoon and evenings, delays tend to stack up, particularly in the summer where you've got those thunderstorms that just shut down airports, particularly in Chicago, New York, Boston, and D.C. And one other thing that can play in, if you're on a route where there are other means of transportation to easily get somewhere, like, say, Boston to New York, sometimes those will be the flights that also get looked at being canceled or delayed because they're going to disrupt fewer people. There's a lot of volume. You can shift people to other flights, and you're not going to strand somebody in Boston necessarily because they can hop on the Acela and get down there if they're a business traveler.
All right, so 3 things. Don't fly late in the afternoon, in the evening. Always fly on the big jumbo jets, and don't fly through Chicago.
Right, if you can, so said another way, if you can fly point to point, if you can find that direct flight, do it. If you've got to connect, keep in mind where you're connecting and leave yourself a lot of time. Don't try to thread the needle. I am guilty of this almost every time we travel, and it's, can I make that connection with 38 minutes on the ground? And the answer is you probably shouldn't plan to make that connection with 38 minutes on the ground. Leave yourself some time. And finally, if there is weather, call the airline and see if they can route you somewhere else. They would rather you get to your destination and not have to deal with you somewhere. So often, if there's weather in the forecast, they'll be pretty flexible with trying to get you where you need to go and route you around the areas. But avoiding Chicago isn't a bad bet.
And avoiding Vlad, according to Kris Van Cleave.
Yes, particularly with his shoes off. I mean, come on, man.
No, I don't. I definitely don't do that. But the vodka part, I'm only kidding.
That's fine.
I'm only kidding.
At 9 in the morning, that's something
yes,
to talk
exactly.
about.
Well, you know, funny enough, Kris, I was on that flight from Boston to New York this morning, and it was delayed. And I thought to myself, we still landed on time. I know you're our transportation correspondent, but I also know you're an aviation geek because I follow you on Instagram. And I was wondering if they actually build in those times, because we did land on time, even though the flight was supposed to take off at 6 a.m., but it took off at 6:30, but we still landed at 7:15.
They build in time because of DOT rules about tarmac delays and things. So they pad it a little bit, Absolutely. There's a difference between from when you push off from the gate and sort of wheels up to wheels down time. And sometimes they can make up time in the air. But yeah, they give themselves a bit of a cushion.
All right.
And that way they can say, and we arrived 12 minutes early.
Exactly.
To give you a head start. Well,
Much more on this on the evening news tonight, guys.
Thanks, Kris. We'll see you later on this evening.